Hey everyone, Alex here. Today I'm going to dive into shape editing in Cavalry Animation Software. I'm going to keep it super simple and focus on the edit shape tool and the pen tool. I'll walk you through some handy shortcuts and tips and tricks on the way. Whether you are a seasoned Cavalry user or you're just starting out, I imagine that there could be something valuable for everyone in this tutorial. So without further ado, let's get into shape editing. Okay, so the best place to start is going to be by selecting the pen tool. You can either press P on your keyboard or go over to the little pen icon up here, and if you hover over it, it'll say P for the pen tool. And then you can just start clicking in the viewport and you'll notice that you're drawing and you're creating shape points, which is fantastic. However, there's a few things that you can do to help you here. Enable your snapping options. You'll find the snapping options down here under the viewport. It looks like a little magnet icon, so just click on that. I, to be honest, have this on by default all the time, and I just check all of the options, so feel free. I can get into that, or you can look into the docs another day to see what the snapping options actually do. But for now, I'm just going to turn the snapping options on, and I'm also going to turn on the grid on the right, and I'm going to shrink this grid down by about half. So with snapping on now, you'll be able to see the cursor is snapping to the grid. It's also snapping to the points of itself. And if you create a second path, it will also do that. And you'll see a yellow line that indicates that this is on and working. So creating straight lines is easy, no issues there. If you want to create Bezier handles out of this, you just need to do the same, but click and drag from each point. And this will pull out some handles from every point that you create, which is fantastic. However, after that, if you don't want to create a Bezier and you're already in one, so you can see the curved dashed line on the screen here, all you have to do is just hold Alt or Options and it will convert that to a linear point again, and you've got yourself a straight line. So we've created a pretty rudimentary shape. What I'm going to do now, if you don't want these points to be Bezier anymore after you've already done it, just select the Edit Shape tool up here or press A, and that will automatically switch whatever tool you've got to the Edit Shape tool. Select your shape, and then any of these points you can now convert to a linear point just by Alt or Options and clicking it. And as you can see, we're now making straight points for everything. Just do the same again to turn it back to a curved. You can actually select all of these points either by just click and drag to marquee select, or even quicker, just double click a single point and it will select all 4 points. And then if you Alt or Options click that again, it will convert all points at the same time. Okay, so I am just going to clear the viewport and turn off the grid. Okay, so let's just assume that you've got a primitive shape like an ellipse or a rectangle. These primitives, they're not editable, so you can't actually move these points freely until they are editable. This is because these shapes have these generator attributes. These would no longer work if the shape was editable, unfortunately. You can actually set this in the shape menu at the top left. You have the Create Editable Primitives option. If this is unchecked and you're pressing Alt and click on any of these shapes, then you will make a primitive shape, which is what we want. So I've Alt clicked this ellipse to make an ellipse. In order to make this ellipse editable, I'm going to press A or select the Edit Shape tool at the top left, and I'm simply just going to double click the ellipse in the viewport. This will bring up a message that says the shape is not editable. Would you like to make it editable? So go ahead and press yes, and you've got an editable ellipse shape. So with this editable ellipse, I'm actually going to go ahead, I'm going to turn off the fill, enable the stroke, we'll increase it so you can see it, and we'll zoom in a bit. Now you should be able to see a small arrow above the top of the ellipse pointing to the left or counterclockwise if you want. This indicates the direction that objects will travel across this path, or the direction that the trim will travel or the stroke's traveling. It also indicates the first point along the contour. So a quick demonstration to show you what it's doing. If I go onto the stroke tab of the shape, go find dash pattern, and let's just edit that to 50. Let's make it round because that looks prettier. You'll notice that it split it up, but if I edit the travel on the stroke tab now, increasing the value will make the stroke travel anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, and decreasing goes clockwise. But in case you need this to do something else, you can also select the point you want, or any of the points, right click it, and there's an option down here that says reverse contours, which will reverse the entire path. You'll notice these have moved because it's not an even value for the dash distribution. It's my fault. But yeah, reverse contours, super useful for changing the direction. This is great for pathfinders, if you've got like a shape points distribution on the duplicator, text along paths, and much more. So I'm just going to clear out this dash pattern, go back to the shape. As you can see, there's only 4 points along this shape. If you want more than that, or you want to add more points, there's a few things you can do. Also, I should note, this is super obvious if you haven't, every tool has this tool help option in the toolbar. If you can't see this little dock, just go to Window and reset to default workspace. That should bring this up if you don't have that. But enabling this will bring up this little bit of information here, and it's very easy just to overlook this. I've overlooked it 100 times in the past, but there is actually an option here to S and click to split the path, and you'll notice that when you hold S with the Edit Shape tool over the path, you'll see a little line appear over the path, and then when you click, you're now creating points any way you like along the path. You can also split a path in a few ways. So say you want to split the path on this point, you can go to the shape menu and you can find split path at selection, and what this will do is it split the path. It's created 2 points on the same point. The other way to split it is to use open contour, but open contour will not create another point at that point. It will literally just open up the gap between this point and the previous point. For example, if I select the first point with the contour, go shape, open contour, it's now opened a path there. If you want to shut that again, just go back to shape and choose close contour. However, with the open contour, if you now would select this point over here, right click it, and you can set first point, which will just move the first point of the contour along with the open path. The next thing I can show you is there's something called the transform tool on the edit shape tool. So with the edit shape tool selected, up here on the toolbar, there's this option here, transform tool. So if you just click on that, you might not know what it's doing immediately, but basically if you were to marquee select 3 of these points, you've now got a bounding box for these points, and when you hover over the edges, you can actually rotate those points together, or you can scale them together, and if you hold shift it will scale and maintain the proportions. Super useful if you're making a more complex design and you just want to keep certain portion of it the same proportions. So moving on with this is a logo I designed for my friend Quibel's recording studio, and he wanted something super simple, but yeah, he didn't know what he wanted, and he said his studio was called Orange Sky Studio. The idea was that I'd make a sound wave and a sun, and then that would become the O in Orange Skies. But I made this in Cavalry using the shape editing tools. How I went about that was I had these 2 shapes to start with. So I'd just drawn a squiggle, super easy, with the pen tool, and then I needed to get the overarching sun part. To do that, you're gonna want a perfectly round sphere. So I had this ellipse, I made it editable. I would then select this bottom point, set first point, shape, and open contour. I would then delete this point, making the semicircle perfect. You could technically do this even quicker if you just made a circle and changed it to the semicircle option. It's up to you how you do it. You can go about it anyway. And then the hard part comes in that you've got 2 editable shapes here and you need to make them 1 editable shape. Well, it's not actually hard, it's really easy. I'll just identify the middle, pull a ruler at the top, and then if you were to marquee select the top part, you can move this with the arrow keys, and this will move it in 1 pixel at a time. Let me just get that back to 0 because I've moved it too far. But you can move that with the arrow keys. You don't actually have to do anything too difficult. And then what you're going to want to do is you want to select both of the shapes in the scene window, go to shape, merge to editable. Then you've got this merge shape. Let's just turn the fill off again, turn the strokes back on. You've still got to create a connection between these paths. So the way to do that is we'll just move that over. We'll marquee select these two, and we'll go for shape, join contours, and we'll delete that one for now. And we'll do the same over here with these two. Shape, close contours this time. We're not quite there, as this looks a little bit dodgy to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to marquee select all of these bottom points, and then with the arrow keys on the keyboard again, just go up, squish it down a bit, and we'll do that again on here. Arrow keys in the middle, squish it in, and we'll fill this, make it orange for orange skies. And that's how you merge two shapes, and you can create things really quickly. So that is what I would probably still consider quite a brief introduction to shape editing in Cavalry, but I didn't want to make a video that was about an hour long going into all the ins and outs. We'll do that in another video at another point. The idea of this was, I feel things like this somewhat get left behind in Cavalry. Very simple things for users to learn that might be really difficult if you're a first-time motion graphics creator, or even just a hobbyist that wants to start learning animation. Anyway, I've covered very basic rudimentary tips and tricks for using the shape editing tools within Cavalry, and I think it's important to remember that Cavalry can also be used for logo design. You don't have to dismiss it as an animation app, and it's free. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. I will try and make some more videos in future. I will try and mix it up between making some cool things, but also showing you the fundamentals of how things work, rather than just showing you what I did and how to do it. I feel there might be more worth in it for you guys. So if you liked it, subscribe, let us know what you want to see, what you want to learn about. We'll go into it in depth. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching. I know